Bang. All right, we're just posting to Twitter, and we are live. All right, welcome. Appreciate you joining us here late on Saturday night. Here, as you can see in the background, Holy World still going on, BYU, Utah, but I figure with most of the college football action already in the books, let's break down the biggest results from Week 11, what it means now going forward as we enter the home stretch here of November of the college football, at least regular season. Let's start with the biggest result, or one of the biggest results, I should say, from the weekend, and that was the game most of us just watched. Alabama destroying, beating down, whatever adjective you want to use here to describe what they did to LSU, you pick your choice here. It was fitting. They demolished the Tigers 42-13. And there's a lot to take away from this game, starting with the Crimson Tide perspective. Because I think what they proved to you tonight, proved to everybody, is that when they're locked in, when they are focused, they can beat any team in the country. Any team in the country. We've already seen them beat Georgia. Now they put a whooping on LSU and made them look like they were just second-class citizens. And it shows that when this team is focused, and we've seen that lack of focus come up against Vanderbilt, we've seen that lack of focus come up and lack of discipline come up against Tennessee when they're counting and accumulating 1 million penalties. Kalen DeBoer has had sloppy teams, and this was the case at Washington as well. His teams did not play always the cleanest brand of football. They were susceptible at times to being, to getting got. But when they're locked in and they're playing their best football, I mean, you saw it. How many teams can beat Alabama when they're playing like this? The answer is little to none. And so they reminded you yet again in a big spot, they are a real challenger here for the national title. Now, the thing for me is, and why I'm still not ready to say that they can win the national title this year, is because they're too inconsistent. This is a great win at LSU. We saw they had a great win against Georgia now almost 2 months ago. But the problem is they can't repeat their performances like this in a week in, week out basis. So I'm not there yet in terms of crowning Alabama, but damn, are they close. Damn, are they good. And it starts with a quarterback. It starts with Jalen Milroe, who had a field day against LSU. 185 yards on the ground, 4 touchdowns. Now, if you watch Hick's 5-minute picks right here on this YouTube channel, Ryan Hickey, make sure you subscribe if you don't. We talked about the biggest key in this game being Jalen Milroe's legs, because this season, when he's running the ball efficiently, it unlocks the entire offense and they're unstoppable. But when he's getting stopped, everything else bogs down. So when Jalen Milroe this season is averaging 4.5 yards per carry or greater, Alabama is averaging in those games 45 points per game. Their offense is unstoppable. And we saw it yet again. When his legs are rolling, when he's getting chunk carries and running into the end zone for touchdowns, Alabama's offense is unstoppable no matter who they play. Georgia, LSU, Mizzou, you name it, does not matter. Wisconsin earlier in the season, his legs are the key. Now, the passing game, I think in part because of the rain, you saw the rain coming down pretty heavy for most of the game. Passing game, for the most part, is under wraps. But again, when he's running the ball well, that really has Alabama's offense going, and it looks to be one of the best offenses in all the country. Kalen DeBoer does a tremendous job of putting his players in positions to succeed. He did it yet again here in this win over LSU. And now you look again with Alabama, if they can just remain consistent here, stay locked in and focused, they are going to be a bitch to play, and no one's going to look forward to it whatsoever. They're a team that they reminded everybody, they're back. They're not going anywhere. They are still a force to be reckoned with. Again, the consistency is not there like it was under Nick Saban, but when they're at their peak, when they're playing well, there's not much of a drop-off between a Nick Saban coach team and a Kalen DeBoer coach team. They are right there in terms of when they're on their A game, they are almost unbeatable. And so also, too, if you look at this game, on the flip side for Brian Kelly and LSU, I mean, look, they got to get players. They talked about on the broadcast, Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler did. You need better SEC caliber players on defense. You brought in Blake Baker, who's a tremendous defensive coordinator, paid him $1 gazillion from Mizzou to get him there. That defense got gashed. And they have a big problem here when it comes to dual threat quarterbacks. They've had a really tough time slowing them down. We saw Lenore Sellers early in the season really torch LSU's defense. Marcel Reed ran all through him when he came in to in that game a few weeks ago for A&M as they eventually took down LSU. And then this game as well, Milroe, they can't stop the quarterback run. They have a real tough time slowing down mobile quarterbacks. So if you're Brian Kelly, obviously you have to get that fixed. I mean, you're paying your defensive coordinator so much money. You have to be able to get that fixed now, immediately. Immediately. But also, too, if you're Brian Kelly, I think the onus for you is on the offense. You're supposed to be an offensive guy, a quarterback guy, and we see Garrett Nussmeier yet again in a big spot, turning it over. 3 more turnovers, an end zone turnover, a fumble that leads to a touchdown for Bama. He killed all momentum by himself. Like this feels like the Garrett Nussmeier experience, where he builds you up, where he can lead you down the field. He can get you close, get your hopes up. Oh my God, we're starting to believe Nussmeier's the guy, and then just cut your legs out from under you. Just the ceiling crashes down. Whether it's a great first half, awful second half, whether it's a great drive that results in a turnover in the end zone, he just can't consistently get it done. There's been a lot of hype and excitement around Nussmeier at the next level in terms of NFL development. And I get his pocket presence is good. His decision-making sucks. Look, he can climb the pocket, roll out, escape. I get that. That's all well and good. He does look like a pro moving in the pocket. But, man, when he throws the ball, you look at it, and it's like, what are you looking at, dude? What defense are you reading? What are you thinking? I mean, the only person that makes more stupid throws you're saying, what the bleep are you doing, is Carson Beck. But other than that, even when the ball's, he's throwing and not getting intercepted, they're nearly intercepted. He puts the ball in harm's way too much, and that's been a consistent theme. The 2 themes for LSU this season, not stopping mobile quarterbacks and having Nussmeier have the worst turnovers at the most inopportune times, putting your defense in bad spots, ruining drives, taking away momentum. It's everything that right now has hurt LSU. This season up to this point reared its ugly head in this game. They were exposed. And by the way, this is karma. Because this week, LSU had a live tiger back on the field. Now, it wasn't Mike the Tiger. The governor brought in a tiger from a different sanctuary in Louisiana to have a tiger on the sideline for the first time since 2015. LSU, to their credit, and I give them a lot of credit here, they want to put current Mike in the stadium because he's never been in the stadium. They were afraid how he was going to react. Good on you. This felt to me very skeevy from the beginning when you're gonna put a tiger in the stadium, but it's not Mike the Tiger. It's a different tiger from a different part of the state. It felt off. It felt like you're asking for trouble here. I think they got it. And all ends with an ass whooping that I think a lot of us should have seen coming now for a while. Alabama cleans the clock of LSU, reminds everybody they're back. They're a threat to win the national title. Speaking of which, I really thought today we would be talking about Kirby Smart and Georgia getting a big-time win and Lane Kiffin yet again in a big spot coming up small. Good for you, Lane. Like, to me, if you want to take a step back here and look at Week 11 overall, today to me is all about Lane. All about Lane Kiffin and finally breaking through. Look, I've called him the James Franklin of the SEC now for a while because that's really what he is. For a while, he's one of those coaches that everybody loves because he's fun. He has a personality. He's doing get ready with me videos on TikTok, but before a game. Like, he is different. He is a coach that actually will give you a little personality. And I think a lot of people, and myself included, enjoy that. Like, that's what you want to see from a coach, actual personality, not just the generic coach speak answers, blah, blah, blah. We respect our opponent. You know the deal. But I think a lot of that love and excitement and joy that Lane brings because of what he says in the press conferences and how he acts on the sideline, I think for a while masked what should have been rightful criticism because every time Ole Miss, and even going before that at Tennessee and USC as well, every time Lane played in a big game, his teams would lose. And more times than not, they would not just lose. They wouldn't even be competitive. They would get blown out. They would get out-physicaled, out-toughed. Their high-flying offense usually would get shut down. They averaged 21 points per game in top 10 matchups in the regular season under Lane Kiffin. Ole Miss did going back to 2021. So it's like they have not been able to score against some of the best defenses in the country. Their defense has had no chance against some of these teams, some of these offenses, and that all flipped today. And I give Lane a lot of credit. He really went out in the transfer portal last offseason and beefed up the trenches. really tried to get physical in the defense, and it's worked. That defense today, I mean, they pushed around Georgia, pushed them around, bullied them. Think about that. We're talking about an Ole Miss defense that has been tough when? Never. They've never been physical. No one's ever categorized them as tough as nails and big and dominant. But that's where they were today. They pushed around that Georgia offensive line. They stifled. Now, it's a bad run game to begin with, so no, let's not give them too many flowers here. Georgia's run game stinks. But boy, did they give them no sign of life whatsoever in this game. They made sure that stinky run game stunk all game long. And you go back to Lane having both sides of the ball ready. I thought he outcoached Kirby Smart all game long. I mean, look at it from an offensive perspective here. In terms of game plan and play calling, Georgia's defense was guessing. And that to me was the biggest shock of this game. It's not just the fact that Ole Miss won and Lane Kiffin came through. I had zero faith in Ole Miss in this game whatsoever. Zero faith. I was proven dead wrong. But when you look at actually, okay, what part of the game surprised you the most outside of just the general outcome, it was, to me, Georgia's defense just looking sloppy, looking like they were like always guessing and always a step behind Ole Miss's offense. I mean, you look at what Georgia did in Austin a few weeks ago against Texas's offense with all the playmakers, that beef they have on the offensive line. I mean, they bullied them. They absolutely dominated them. They took their lunch in Austin on that day. And I really thought, okay, when you look at Georgia, and not to make excuses, but some of these games they play, okay, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Florida, the third string quarterback, like, all right, maybe they just weren't locked in, weren't focused. And, you know, but when Kirby has their attention and they have an offense they respect and they dial in, they are one of the most dominant units, Georgia's defense, one of the most dominant units in all of college football. Maybe the most dominant unit in all of college football. And so I really thought today, going to the Grove, they would come out and just put the absolute clamps on Ole Miss's offense. And that was never the case. Outside of the interception on the first drive of the game, they were on their heels and guessing the entire time. I mean, Ole Miss punted twice in this game. Twice. That's it. They couldn't get any stops. I know they settled for 1 million field goals in the red zone. So credit Georgia's defense for at least getting stops there. But between the 20s, my goodness, it was just chunk play after chunk play on the ground, through the air. Credit to Jackson Dart as well, gutting through an ankle injury that he suffered on the first drive of the game. By the way, Ole Miss without their top running back and top receiver did not matter. Still racked up almost 400 yards of total offense. This to me is about Lane. Good for you, man. I'm really happy for you. That's a great win for Ole Miss. And now you look. Now, they have to run the table, right? Got to run the table here. But you look, my goodness, if they make the playoff, physical defense, offensive and defensive lines that can move you off the ball, skilled players on the outside that can make explosive plays. I like this. To me, this is one of those wins that I think can really get, the monkey off Lane's back. And I think almost free him up to now where this is going to be a dangerous, loose team. Ole Miss, man, I think they have what it takes to make a run. I'm not saying national title, but like you talk about, if with 2 losses, probably start on the road, be a 10 seed and 11 seed. If you're a 6 seed, if you're a 7 seed and they're coming to your building, I'm not feeling good about it. I'm not feeling good about it whatsoever. That is a very, very dangerous road playoff team here where Ole Miss, I think, can really make some noise. They pull off 1, maybe 2 upsets. I think they have a real chance to go to the Final Four. I like what I've seen from Ole Miss. I think they are legit. I don't think this was just one day everything went right for them. This is real where I think going forward now, we're talking about Ole Miss as one of those teams that can make it to the Final Four of the college football playoff. On the flip side here, if you're Georgia and you're Kirby Smart, you're sitting here going, what the hell? 2 losses? What are we doing? I think it's time. I think it's time Georgia pulls the plug on Carson Beck. Look, forget about the NFL. Forget even 2025. How can you start this guy next week against Tennessee? He right now is actively hurting your chances of winning games. And I can't sit here and tell you he's the best option for Georgia moving forward. He's hurting the team more than he's helping them. How can you sit here and truly say for Georgia, with, by the way, now with 2 losses at 7-2, your season is on the line the next 3 weeks. If you lose to Tennessee next week, you're done. You're not making the playoff. Forget about a bye. Forget about a home game in the first round of the playoff. You at 9-3 are not making the playoff. Period. Stop. So now if you're Georgia, basically you're in playoff mode from this point forward. Every game, your season is on the line. With the season on the line, can you really sit here and tell me that Carson Beck gives you the best chance of making the playoff? Can you really sit here and tell me that Carson Beck at quarterback gives you the best chance to win a national championship? The answer is hell no. Hell no. He leads all of college football in interceptions now. After this game, he had 2 more turnovers that again led to points. He is killing this offense. And the thing is, it's not even just the turnovers. He can't play. He can't read a defense. Anytime there's pressure, he crumbles. He makes horrible decisions. His accuracy at times is questionable. Now, look, I get there's a lot around Beck that is not very good. That offensive line got pushed around, and they at times gave him no chance. That run game is non-existent. There is no threat of the run whatsoever. That is a one-dimensional Georgia offense, and it's pass only. Speaking of which, Georgia receivers stink. I get it. They can't catch the ball. Most drops in college football. This is not all on Carson Beck, but with that said, if you're Kirby Smart right now, I think a change has to be made. It's Jaden Rashada season, baby. Let's go. You brought him in. At this point, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? Because even if you're not, even if you planned at this point, right, of redshirting Rashada and thought, you know what, he's our future plan for 2025 and beyond. At this point, like again, when you watch Beck playing, where is the confidence that he is going to deliver you now a chance to win? I mean, you go back to the last 6 games, Beck has thrown 3 interceptions in the last 6 games. In 3 games, I should say. He's thrown 3 interceptions each in 3 of the last 6 games. 12 interceptions on the season. He's killing you. The only touchdown you scored today came on a short field on an interception in which you ran the ball every single play. At this point, you got to make a change. Carson Beck is not the answer. The longer he stays under center, the worse the odds are for Georgia to win a national title. And it's a shame. I know the defense not played great today, but I still think they have a lot of talent on that side of the ball. But damn, this team, man, this team is broken. This team right now is broken. There's a lot of issues Kirby's got to fix, and they're not going to be fixed in 1 week. Now, there's still, I would say for my money right now, would be Tennessee. And again, as a Penn State fan, I'll say, would I be excited to face Georgia in the playoff? No. But with that said, this is the most vulnerable Georgia's been since 2020, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And it's hard now to call them a national title contender. It really is. I thought going into this week they would be, because I expected them to go into Oxford and dominate. And now coming out of this weekend, I can't call Georgia a national title contender. How can you? This offense stinks. Can't pass the ball. They turn it over so much. They can't run the ball. The defense right now is struggling getting stops and is struggling with consistency. How can you sit here and call Georgia a national title contender? If you still think that, you're thinking about Georgia from 2022, from 2021. You're thinking about Georgia in the past. You're even thinking about Georgia last year. It's 2024. Trust your eyes. When you're watching this team, they don't look like one of the most dominant, best teams in the country. Period. Stop. They got flashes, just like Alabama has some flashes, but they're not consistent enough. And offensively, especially, they have never been good enough this season to trust. Their defense has been good enough to win some games. Their offense has not been. Georgia coming out of this game, not national title contenders. Kirby's got a lot of work to do. He's got a lot of work to do this offseason to get that offense going in the right direction. Man, oh man, what a game. Speaking of what a shock and what a game. I mean, this is actually not a shock, because I think if you watched a good amount of Miami this year, you know this was coming. This sort of game, this loss has been written on Miami's forehead for weeks. Credit to them, I guess, that they fought it off for this long, but this was inevitable. They fought at Georgia Tech 28-23. And again, you look at how Miami's played this year, their defense stinks. Offense is great. Cam Moore, tremendous. He's had one of the best individual seasons, not only this season, but that we've really seen in recent college football history. Like, he's been outstanding. The problem, though, for Miami is their defense is so bad that they can only win one way, and that's with their offense. And we've seen them do it again. They got lucky with the referees in Virginia Tech. Should have lost on a Hail Mary. Didn't. Anyway, that the offense played great that game, scored almost 40 points. Cal, you outscore them 39-38, get a blessing from the referees with no targeting call. You outscore Louisville 52-45. Like, you're down by 11, and all of a sudden the offense wakes up last week against Duke. You finish with 52 points. Every single game Miami's won. Going back to week 1 in the Swamp, they have won because of Cam Ward and the offense, not because of the defense whatsoever. And this was the first game where you saw Cam Ward struggle, where that offense struggled, where they're not putting up 40 points, they're not putting up 50 points, when they weren't just running down the field freely and scoring touchdowns left and right. And this is a game where if you're a true national title contender, hell, if you're a playoff contender, you need your defense to step up and make a play. Couldn't do it. They got dominated on the ground. Dominated. Allowed Georgia Tech to chew up the clock. Really made it tough on the offense here to get any sort of rhythm going. And think of it, we've played 10 games so far, right? Mostly 9 or 10 games, depending on your schedule and your buys. But Miami's played 10 games this year. They needed their defense to step up in one game out of 10. Think about that. They needed their defense to play one really good game in 1 out of 10 games, and they failed to do so. And now you look at it going forward here at 9-1 if you're Miami. Now look, win the ACC, right? You're in automatically. If they lose the ACC championship, if they lose to SMU in the ACC title game, they're done. At 11-2, they are not making the playoff. You look at their resume right now, right? They'll be 11-2. They'll have 0 top 25 victories. They'll have 2 losses, a poor strength of schedule, a great offense, no defense. You tell me, how is an 11-2 Miami team that's not ACC champs, how are they getting in over Alabama? How are they getting in over Ole Miss? How are they getting in over possibly 11-1 Indiana? How are they getting in over Notre Dame? They're not. They're not. That's where you look at this loss for Miami being so catastrophic. They still control their destiny because as long as they win the ACC, they're in, and they're going to have a bye. So this season for them really comes down to SMU. But now what they did today in losing to the Yellow Jackets is, I think, eliminate any sort of wiggle room to where if they walked into the ACC title game at 12-0 and lost SMU at 12-1, I think they're still in. I don't think they're out of the playoff and out of the top 12 if they lose the ACC title game going in undefeated. But now you lose to Tech. You've gotten, again, a few lucky breaks and a few lucky calls that benefited you early in the season that kept you undefeated. Now you lose to Georgia Tech. If you lose to SMU with no impressive wins in your resume, and guess what? You don't have any good teams left in your schedule. How are you putting Miami in the playoff? I mean, right now you look at their schedule based on how it is. They have either already played or will play 5 total teams that have a winning record. That's it. Forget about being ranked. 5 total teams that have a winning record at this point in the season. That's it. They have a weak schedule. They've played nobody. They've beaten nobody. And now you're starting to see the downside of being so reliant on one side of the ball and really so reliant on one player. Miami's in real trouble here. If they lose the ACC title game, they're out of the playoff. 11-2, I don't want to hear it. You can put them 13, 14, 15. I don't care. They are out of the top 12, not in the playoff. I don't think this team will make the playoff, but they deserve to me a lot of credit. And that's Colorado. I was dead wrong on the Buffs. Dead wrong. I thought this team was going to be another 3 or 4 win team. I do not trust Deion Sanders in the transfer portal here to make this team any better than what they were last year. I didn't trust his coaching at all, honestly. I don't think he's a very good coach, or at least didn't think he's a very good coach. Thought he was all flash, no substance. And his credit right now, you look at the Buffs going on the road, beating Texas Tech, who just beat Iowa State last week, and winning 41-27. Now they're 7-2, and they control their destiny to go into the Big 12 title game. And you look at the rest of the schedule, it's very manageable. Their last 3 games, Utah, which let's see right now. I think it's at the half. Can't really tell. But Utah right now is playing BYU close, but Utah otherwise has been a mess this season. where their offense, they're on their third string quarterback. Their offense coordinator stepped down. Like Utah's been a mess from what they've previously been. So that's a winnable game. Kansas, who did play really well and beat Iowa State, but Kansas has had a down year. And then Oklahoma State, forget it. OK State has just quit. They have thrown in the towel. All the excitement surrounding Allie Gordon and all their offensive linemen coming back is out the window. That team has quit. So who the hell? I'm not even sure they'll show up. Last game of the year. I'm like half joking, but kind of not. That could be a forfeit waiting to happen here. But I say that to say this. There's a path here for Colorado to be 10-2. Now, I think they go probably 2-1 and lose one of those games. There's a real path that they're at 10-2 and in the Big 12 title game with then being 60 minutes away from making the college football playoff and probably having a bye. They're close. I give a lot of credit. Now, again, I don't think they're making it. I don't think they're good enough right now to go 3-0 with this remaining schedule. I definitely don't think they're good enough to beat BYU if they make the Big 12 title game. So with that, I'm not buying Colorado as a playoff team at all, but I give them a lot of credit. I think they deserve a lot of credit right now for how they've played the season, what Deion has done in year number 2. They've had some injuries. They beefed up their defense. They've gotten a little bit better on the offensive line. Still, again, not great, but it's definitely better than it's been last year, which is an improvement, right? That's good at least. So if you're Colorado, credit to you because this has been a really so far impressive season for them. And it continues. That's a really strong win they had earlier today against Texas Tech. Props to you. Sorry, I got to get some water here. My throat's killing me. Props to you. So let's lower this lower third here. My mouth is getting cut off, and that kind of looks a little weird. There we go. That looks a little bit better here. Props to you here, Colorado, for going to 7-2. I think having so far put yourself in the position to being in the Big 12 title game. Never would have thought that was the case. Speaking of props, speaking of being in a position to go to a title game, how about the Hoosiers? 10-0 now. How about this? They've been a football program for 126 years. This is the first time ever they've had a 10-win season. And it just happens the fact that their 10 wins have started, have been consecutive to start the season. They are 10-0. They beat Michigan. Not only was this win important, I think how they beat Michigan is important. You look at Indiana, they've really beaten everybody in one way, just blowing them out, just taking them to the pavement and running away. They, up until last week, they were the first team since BYU, and I think it was 1993 or 1998, I think it was. I say BYU, sorry, Kansas State. Brains here late at night. My apologies. Thank you for bearing with me. They were the first team since 1998, Kansas State, to never trail at any point through the first 8 games of the season. They ran out early. They ran away with it. They blew everybody out. Indiana, up until this week, won every game by 14 points or more. And so I think when you look at this game and how it played out, you win 20-15 over Michigan. I think it's important how they won this game because they proved to, I think, a lot of people today, they can win games in different fashions. They're not just going to beat you by throwing it with Curtis Rourke and just airing it out or running the ball with their really good duo running backs and beating you that way. They are really well balanced. So they could beat you in the air, they could beat you on the ground, and they could beat you defensively. They have a really, really good defense. Even though that defense a little bit started to be shaky in the second half and Michigan started putting together drives and, got down, kicked a few field goals, got in the end zone there, and almost tied the game on a 2-point conversion that was knocked away. Credit to Indiana because they were able to win a grimy, gritty, physical game. And that's important now when you look at their next game, Ohio State 2 weeks from now. I think they can go into Columbus and win. I really do. I'm not sitting here predicting they're going to win right now, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I don't think they have no chance. This team is legit because they're able to win in so many different facets. But not only win in so many different facets, when it gets to crunch time, right? Like when the game gets tight, they don't get tight. They still play loose. Again, that defense got some stops against Michigan. Offense was able to put a field goal on the board to give themselves a little bit more breathing room and make it at least a touchdown for Michigan in order to win the game, not just a field goal. They were able to make plays in a situation which they've never been in this season. They've never been in a close game late. Again, they've won every game up to this point by 14 points or more. So they don't know, or didn't know, I should say, what it's like with 2 minutes left, got to make a play. How do you do it? They learned and they figured it out. They deserve a lot of credit here. Again, I love the way Indiana won this game. Michigan stinks this year, so that's not an impressive win. The brand is there, but in terms of resume building win, that's not that. Indiana has one chance to do that this season. That's going to be in the shoe 2 weeks from now, and I think they have a real chance to win. They have a real chance to win here. Buckeyes better play good. They better be sharp. Now, they blew up Purdue today. They look very good after their win over Penn State. Ohio State was clicking all cylinders today. But if they play like they did against Nebraska a few weeks ago, not only are they going to lose, they're going to probably get embarrassed. They need to be on their A game here, or they're in real trouble. The Hoosiers are legit. They better be in the top 5. I'll say this right now to the committee. We're recording this on Saturday night, and hopefully you're watching either right now or if you're watching Sunday morning. Appreciate you for making a few minutes here for us. When those rankings come out Tuesday night, we'll be live recording a reaction after the rankings are released. So make sure you check out this YouTube page because we will give you instant reaction here to the rankings every Tuesday that they're released. Right here on the YouTube, Brian Hickey, check it out. Appreciate you. Or Hick at Night podcast as well. Night spelled Nite. They better be top 5. It better be, when you look at it, Oregon 1, Ohio State 2. I'd slide Texas up to 3. Depending on if BYU can hold on and win here, I put BYU up there and I put Indiana up there. Indiana, bare minimum, better be ahead of. Now I'm blanking. Holy cow. Better be ahead of Georgia, my goodness, and Miami. Bare minimum. If they are behind either, the committee's flawed. They should be ahead of Texas. We did a blind resume on the Big Ten podcast I host. Still enrolled. Check that out if you're a Big Ten fan or just college football fan. It's a lot of fun discussions there. But you look at the blind resume. If you take away the logos and the names, you just look at the resumes. Indiana's resume, objectively, is more impressive than Texas's. Yet Texas is higher ranked. Why? Brand bias. The committee better do the right thing. You cannot have a 2-loss Georgia ahead of Indiana. You cannot have a 1-loss Miami ahead of Indiana. Indiana's legit. They've been disrespected this entire season. They'll have a chance to earn their respect 2 weeks from now. But between now and then, they better be properly ranked. The committee is on watch. All right, let's wrap this up here with this. Looking ahead to next week, Tennessee suffered some of maybe the worst injury luck you could have had. So Nico Iamaleava left Saturday night's game against Mississippi State in the first half with an upper body injury. Now, he got slammed on his right shoulder one play, got slammed on his left shoulder. He's hurt. And right now, it is not his status is unknown for Saturday when they do go to Athens to play Georgia. That's killer. But also, not only did Nico get hurt, their all-world running back, Dylan Sampson, also got hurt, got twisted down awkwardly. He had to be helped off the field. Now, the good news is he was able to return in that game, ran for a touchdown, 20th rushing touchdown of the season. Dylan Sampson is outstanding. But I want to throw this by you here. We always talk about quarterback, right, being very important. This may be a hot take. I don't know. I don't think so. But I'm curious your thoughts here. I think in order for Tennessee to beat Georgia next week, they need Dylan Sampson more than they need. Holy cow. I'm dying here. Dying. My apologies. Let me try that again. All right, here we go. In order for Tennessee to beat Georgia next week, they need Dylan Sampson more than they need Nico Iamaleava. I think Sampson is more important for them. To establish a ground game, he finds the end zone consistently. I think if you're Tennessee here and you look at how you're playing offensively, you need Sampson more than you need Nico. It's just the truth. Even though Ole Miss was not able to run the ball consistently today, I thought they ran it well enough that helped open up the pass game. I think if you're Tennessee and Josh Heupel, who wants to be able to run the ball and establish that first, having Sampson healthy is more important than I think having Nico healthy. I think it's harder for Tennessee to beat Georgia if Nico's healthy without Dylan Sampson than the other way around. So if you're Tennessee and you're bummed right now that, Nico may not play, we'll see what his status is. The real MVP will be playing for you, and that's your running back. He's having an outstanding season. Why he's not in the Heisman Trophy race is beyond me. I mean, dude has 20 rushing touchdowns already. 20! He's the heart and soul of that offense. I know that they put up some gaudy numbers and you want to see the big pass plays, but he is the offense centers around him. And with the struggles in the pass game and really the inconsistency we've seen in the pass game so far this season, especially in SEC play, you need Sampson out there to steady the offense and get you some consistency. So that's the good news from an injured front if you're a Tennessee fan. That right now it's obviously depressing. They come out of this game, and again, Sampson's banged up with the ankle injury, return, which is good, but obviously Nico leaves in the first half, can't return for the second half. Feel optimistic that at least the true MVP of your team should be ready to go next week. Be a fun one. Obviously, that's an elimination game where I think the loser, whether it's Tennessee or whether it's Georgia, they're out of the playoff. Early prediction, I think Georgia does win at home and keep their season alive. Like we talked about earlier, I think it's time if you're Georgia to pull the plug on Carson Beck and put in Jaden Rashada. It's going to be really fascinating, really fun game here next week in Athens. Make sure you check us out. We will be back here next week live on Saturday night to recap everything you did see here from what will be next week, at least week 12. Appreciate you watching this week to react to everything we saw here from week number 11. Make sure you do follow on social media. Ryan_Hickey number 3 is where I'm most active, especially for college football stuff. A lot of tweets about it. So make sure you do follow there and check out the YouTube page. If this is the first time, number one, welcome. Appreciate you checking us out here. Make sure to subscribe. We do a lot of college football content. Like we said, we'll give you live reaction after the college football playoff rankings are released. That'll be uploaded to my YouTube page here. We give you picks on Wednesdays, Hicks 5-minute picks as well, and reactions after the game. So a lot of college football content on this page, on this YouTube page, but also on my podcast page for those audio listeners. That can be found Hick at Night, Night spelled Nite. Appreciate you watching. We'll talk to you next week.